My name's Sam Bannon, I'm Farm Urban's head grower, and I'm just going to introduce you to our produce pod system today. As you can probably tell, it's made out of two tanks, a bottom one and a top one. In the bottom tank we've got the fish, and the water gets pumped up via this pipe at the back right there. And as it does so, it gets pumped into this upper tank and passes through a biofilter. In that resides nitrifying beneficial bacteria, and through the process of nitrification, that ammonia produced by the fish gets turned into nitrates, which is then utilised as nutrients by the plant. Once that water is being utilised by the plants, it will come back down through this outlet pipe back to the fish. In the process, that water is being cleaned of all ammonia, which is detrimental to the fish's well-being, and it also oxygenates the water with this little foil here, this plug. So this is a deconstructed produce pod, like the one we just saw before, and you'll see it's made of 5 major structural components. It's got the bottom tank in which the fish live, the top tank, the lid which goes in between, and these 2 containers which form the biofilter. So we've looked at the 5 major structural components. Now we're going to see how they all fit together. So start with your bottom tank. Take the lid of your bottom tank, place that firmly on top. Then take the upper tank, and that just wants to sit happily on the top there. And then the 2 biofilter containers just sit within each other like so. They're exactly the same, apart from the holes which have been pre-drilled into them. And they just sit in the back right-hand corner of the produce pod. So we've now assembled the produce pod, the 5 major structural components anyway. Now we'll consider the plumbing. To ensure a circular flow in this system, we need 1 inlet pipe. This will take the water from the fish up to the plants and through the biofilter, and 1 outlet pipe. This will take the water back down from the top tank and into the bottom. It's important to ensure that the outlet pipe is lower down in the upper tank. This will ensure a circular flow. So we've talked about the inlet pipe and the outlet pipe. Now we're going to have a look at how to install these. For the inlet pipe, it wants to pass through 3 layers. The bottom container of the biofilter, just that. The bottom of the upper tank, like so, and through the lid. For the outlet pipe, you'll want a slightly larger hole at the front left-hand corner of the tank. This will pass through just the upper tank, bottom, and the lid. To make these holes, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need a drill, a 22mm hole cutter for the inlet pipe, and a 30mm hole cutter for the outlet. So we'll start with the inlet pipe. Simply screw that to the drill, and then you don't have to be too specific about this, it just wants to be in the back right hand corner of the produce pod. So the only important thing to bear in mind is they absolutely have to line up correctly, so make sure you use a steady hand when you're doing this, and simply drill through. For the outlet pipe, take the slightly larger hole cutter, 30mm, screw that on, and do the same thing again, but in the front left hand corner. Don't have to be too specific as long as they line up, and straight through, like so. Oh, I've gone too far, okay, brilliant, that's ideal. So we've drilled holes for the inlet and outlet pipes now, so we're now going to consider how to construct the biofilter. This, as we mentioned before, consists of 2 containers, one in which you've already drilled a 22mm hole in for the inlet pipe, and a second which you're going to drill a 76mm hole into. For the first, however, the bottom one, you're first going to need a 5mm drill bit. Around the base of the bottom container of the biofilter, you just simply want to drill in between 6 and 9 smaller holes. So, right the way around, so on every side you've got these holes. That'll be an outlet for the biofilter after it's passed through. The second tub's going to sit within the bottom tub, like so. To cut that hole, you're going to need a 76mm hole cutter. And then simply drill through there. I won't demonstrate properly now because you'll probably need a workbench for this. But simply drill through there. The positioning of this, if you look, so you've got your bottom container with your holes in, just wants to sit in there like so. So the 76mm hole wants to be almost directly above the pre-drilled 22mm one. Before we install the inlet and outlet pipes, we need to do one last piece of drilling. So take your 5mm drill bit, and then this hole is going to be in the lid in between the bottom and the top tanks. Like that. And it just wants to go centrally at the rear of the lid, like there. Like so. All this does is prevent, if there is any leakage, which there shouldn't be, but if there is, it'll just simply drain to the back and back down into the bottom tank. So we've drilled the holes now, that's all the drilling. Now we're going to have a look at the plumbing, so installing your inlet and your outlet pipe. Before you do this, it's worth noting if there are any gnarly bits, any bits of plastic just around the rim of the holes you've just cut, because that can prevent a tight seal being formed, and then you might have some leakage. So just take a Stanley knife or something and go around the edge with that. Okay, so installation of the pipes. We'll begin with the inlet pipe. So this wants to just break in the middle, like so. And for this you're going to need 4 rubber washers. The first one wants to just go, one on the top side there. And then in our system we have underneath the biofilter here a bit of a rim, so we put 2 washers in there. That just forms a tight seal between the base of the biofilter and the base of the top tank. So 2 washers there. Top of the inlet pipe, simply like so. And then through there. So the inlet pipe now is passing through the lid, through the base of the top tank and through the biofilter. Take the underside of the inlet pipe and 1 more washer, and then these both go into the base of the bottom tank. Not very easy to see, but simply screw that onto the underside of the inlet pipe. Install the inlet pipe. To install the outlet pipe, again, just wants to break in the middle like so. For this you'll only need 2 washers, as it's only passing through the base of the top tank and the lid. So 1 washer on there, through the 22mm hole, and then just like with the inlet pipe, this wants to attach. As tightly as possible to ensure watertight seal. worth noting, as we pointed out earlier, that in the top tank here, the outlet pipe is actually slightly lower down than the inlet pipe. This ensures a circular flow. So we've talked about quite a lot of the major structural components of the produce pod. Now we're going to have a look at how the biofilter works and what components you need to make it work. Quite simple. We simply use these plastic circles called K1 as a media on which the bacteria, nitrophine bacteria, can grow. So if we look at the biofilter, we'll have the water being pumped up through this inlet pipe, and then this upper container will float, and as it does so it will pass through the larger hole into the lower container, and it will come out of these smaller 5mm holes that you drilled earlier. So the water is being pumped through this constantly. So if we insert our media in there, plastic K1, in order to get into that lower tank, it must first pass through this plastic media. That's where the nitrification takes place. Last thing you need is some sort of filter to catch the larger material in the water. So we use this polywool, and that's simply just a little incision there. Let's go around the pipe. Simply rests on the top there. So if there's any solid waste, that's not going to get through. That can be washed well, we don't do it very often really. It tends to keep itself clean, but that's what that's for. So before we get on to the last stages of making this produce pod, talking about the light, I thought I'd better just briefly mention this 4cm pipe. It has to be just slightly taller than the outlet pipe, and the purpose of this is it will fit over like so, and all it does is it ensures that the flow of water is from the base of the pipe as opposed to straight in over the top. All that does is it prevents the roots being caught up in the flow and actually clogging that pipe up. So all that is 4cm diameter pipe, some holes cut into the bottom just with a hacksaw, straight over the top. That's that. Next we'll talk about the lighting in this system. There are two lights in this system. There's one for the top that will supplement the plant's growth, and there's this one which will illuminate the bottom tank. So, for the top one, simply a bracket which is held on with screws, bolts either side there. So you'll need to do one last little bit of drilling. For this we use a 3.5mm drill bit. And all you want to do is, on either side, here and here, just do a single hole. So if you look from above, it's around about here on either side. So take your light. This should just sit happily over the top, like so. The second light, we've used this sticky strip LED that comes in rolls, and we just stick that onto this. We're using just a metal bar there, and then some Velcro on the top. So LED, just metal bar, Velcro, and this sits just beneath the lid here, and it has two components, two functions rather. So it just sits in there like so, and whilst acting as a light for the fish, which is of course quite important for their welfare, the metal bar actually helps support the upper tank, which is quite important because there's about 25 litres of water fit in that. And if that weight's being pushed down, it just wouldn't be able to support itself in that metal bar, so it's quite an important part of that system. The produce plant's nearly complete at this stage. There's just one more thing which is quite important to include, and that's the plant. So the plants want to sit in little net pots like this. I think they're about 3.5 centimetres wide, double check. And they simply want to sit in a floating raft of some kind. So this is just plasterboard which we've filled into, and they'll just sit like so. You can use a range of materials for this. This is the one that we prefer, but we've also in the past used like this sort of foam raft. So all you do is take your young plants and pop them in the nets like so. The roots dangle straight into the aquaponic solution below. It's worth noting that we've left 2 spaces here free of holes, just because that's directly over the biofilter, and we don't want the roots going down into that. So if we look at some we've grown earlier, backwards. So here's some that we've grown in an actual functional produce pod, as we saw at the beginning. We've got a range of things. We've got violets there, that's a type of chard, more chard, lettuce. There we go. That's the produce pod.